So settle down onto your backs. You can lie with your knees bent or your legs long. So just lie down however you're most comfortable. And take a moment to let yourselves arrive. I'm just grabbing my book. So what I'd like you to do is just, take a moment to let yourselves arrive and a moment to just see how you feel, and particularly noticing your arms, your shoulders, your neck. So the sort of upper part of the body. How do you feel there today? And it might be helpful just to start to let your head roll a bit to the right and a little bit to the left to, again, just help you become aware of the upper part of the body. So the neck, the shoulders, the arms. And often I think with all these places, it's we're doing a lot, and particularly I think at the moment, if we're doing more online, we use the arms, the shoulders, the neck, and then they find it hard to soften and relax. So from rolling your head, find a comfortable place to settle your head down. And then Helen, we will have done this at the end of last week. And Jan, I think we did this on Thursday night. You're going to take your fingers up and just do a bit of massaging the back of your neck. Sorry. And the base of your skull. So it can feel really nice to get your fingers around the back of your neck. It can also be around the sort of top back of the shoulders. So whatever you're doing, make sure it feels comfortable and nice. You could just be pressing a little bit. You could do a bit of circling with your fingers. And what can feel nice, every side, either side of the spine and the neck, to be sort of pressing and circling a bit, and into the sort of bit of the shoulders that's right by the neck, and also the base of the skull. Just, a little bit of self-massage. Then from there, just doing a little bit more. Come to rest both arms on the floor beside you. And sorry, I haven't muted you, so I will mute you now. So what I'd like you to do now with your arms resting on the floor is just start to roll both arms. So you're turning your palms up and then turning your palms down. So rolling your arms on the floor. So trying to keep as much contact of the arms on the floor as possible, rolling them in one orientation, rolling them in the other. That's nice. And just carry on with this. So in rolling the arms, can we let the arms be quite heavy and relaxed? Can we let the shoulders settle on the floor? And then come to just rolling one arm on its own. So you choose one side and just carry on with one side a few times. So do one arm a few times on its own. And then swap over and do the other arm a few times on its own. Good. And then just let both arms rest. Now we're going to try out a little movement, and it's not really about how far you can go. We're just going to try it out. I think this might be slightly easier if you bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So if your legs are long, do that. What you're going to do is choose one arm to work with, and you're going to repeat this a few times. So with one arm, you're going to bring that arm up, and you're going to try and place your hand on the floor beside your head. So it's like when you're doing that full back arch movement. So your elbow is pointing to the ceiling And it doesn't matter, don't you? And then bring the hand back to your side. So I just want you to try bringing your arm there, but don't force it in any way. So bring your hand up, and you're probably not going to get the flat of your hand on the floor. Might just be your fingertips touch the floor by the side of your head. And ideally in this one, your fingers are pointing towards your toes. So just repeat that maybe 3 or 4 times with one arm, and then repeat that same movement with the other arm. And again, remember, you're not trying to get into the full position. You're not trying to get your hand flat on the floor unless it goes there very easily. It might just be the fingers touching the floor, and it might not be even going that far. So it's just a little exploration of what it's like to bring your hand there. So your elbows pointing towards the ceiling. Eventually the hand might be flat on the floor, but probably not at this stage. Okay, so just make sure that you've tried out your second side a few times. So if you're still on the first side, swap onto the second side. So you've tried it out. And then let both arms come to rest on the floor beside you. And so whichever arm was easier, keep that knee bent and lengthen the other leg out on the floor. So just letting your arms rest for the moment, you're going to start that pressing movement where we press into the bent knee foot and let that side of the pelvis come away from the floor. So let the arms rest. That's it. So you've got one knee bent, one leg long. I just need to grab another tissue. Terrible hay fever. Still not half as bad as yesterday. And then see, so now press into your foot, and when your pelvis is off the floor, bring that arm back up again and see if you can bring your hand in contact with the floor. So the same arm as foot, the same side. So press into the foot and then see if you can bring your hand in contact with the floor. Good. And then that's it. Yes, if you can bring your hand to touch the floor, then keep it there. And a few times, see how it feels to press into your hand and your foot, and let your head roll away from the pressing hand and the pressing foot. So the head will roll in the opposite direction. Add it a little bit. Just think about your knee traveling forwards rather than over to your left. That's it. Very nice. You can let your head roll to your left, though. I hope I'm saying the right, left or right. It's very confusing through Zoom. Confusing when you're in my living room, but let alone on the screen. Good. And just a couple of times, see how that feels. And if it feels too much in your shoulder, don't do it. Release your arm. So an alternative would be just to rest the whole arm on the floor by your head or somewhere out to the side of your head. Okay. That's very nice. So you might want to just release that arm and leg now and maybe lie long on the ground. So let both legs be long. Have both arms back by your sides. Good. Let your breath come in. Let your breath leave you. And then when you're ready, you're going to bend the other knee. So we're just going to do the leg first of all. So bend the knee that was long a minute ago. Well, they're both long, but the leg that, wasn't pressing last time. So bend your other knee, stand that foot on the floor. Start pressing into that foot. So you can be coordinating this movement with your out breath. So as you exhale, pressing down into your foot, letting the pelvis, as we're all doing different sides, I won't say lefts and rights, letting your pelvis tilt towards your long leg side. Keeping your shoulders relaxed, keeping your arms relaxed, letting your knee travel over your footprint. And then remember, it's much easier to get your hand onto the floor by the side of your head when your pelvis is up in the air on that side. So when you're pressing into your foot, that's the time to bring your hand up and see if you can bring your hand onto the floor. Now, Aditi, on this side, you may not want to do that. You may just want to, yeah, you might want to have your arm, yeah, just keep your arm resting on the floor. You could bring it a bit higher up if that's okay, but if it's not, don't. And the same for anyone, you will have done your more comfortable side first. So if this side, if it doesn't feel right to bring your hands onto the floor, don't do it. And then just a few more times pressing into the foot. And if your hand is there, also pressing into the hand. And we're doing this quite early on, so don't feel that you're necessarily going to go that far in terms of pressing into your hand. Do let your head roll away from the pressing hand, because that will help. It just helps everything relax a little bit in the shoulders. Good, so just once or twice more on that side. And then, yes, undo the arm, exactly, Sheila, give the hand a bit of a shake out. These movements are strong on the wrists. Undo the arm, lengthen both legs out for a moment, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to fold, but well, if you want to, Nigel, you might not want to, you're going to fold both knees into your chest. And hold around the top of your knees, have a couple of breaths there. So sort of up to you here. You could just, yeah, you could do a bit of rocking if you like from side to side. You could just hold around your knees and breathe. And you can also take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a bit of a shake out. That's nice. You can also add your arms in if you want to. Good. Good. Very, very nice. And then from here, we're going to be rolling onto one side and we're going to be coming over into sitting, actually. So if you lean back onto your hands and have your feet, I've got my feet quite wide apart. They're about as wide as the narrow edge of my mat, because we're going to do a little bit of this rocking side to side. So it's going to be taking us into pinwheel. So it's good to have enough space between your feet that your knee can come down to the center. That's it, like that. Good. And yeah, you might be like I am, starting to walk forwards on your mat. Good. And so eventually we're going to end up in pinwheel. So just choose which side is more comfortable. Let's do our easy side first and let yourself settle down in pinwheel. So we're going to do a little bit of circling here. Just seeing how it feels to settle. I think I can hear the bin van coming down the road. So if somebody gets noisy at this end, that's what it is. So a little bit of circling, but we're going to do a bit more of that in a moment. So first of all, come and fold over your thigh that's going out to the side and have a couple of breaths here. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then walking your hands back in towards you. Now, some of you will have done this on the sort of Thursday, Friday classes last week. We're going to do a little bit more circling and you're going to cross your arms. So you're going to give yourself a hug. It's quite nice if you then have your hands on the sort of shoulder, on the shoulders, and let your head hang. So this is quite nice for the shoulders, a bit of circling like this, letting the head hang so your back is rounding out. And you're doing a bit of circling here, that's very nice. Aditi, don't do it if it pulls on the shoulders. And if you just look at me for a moment, I've got one arm on top. So you don't want to try and cross, you want to make sure you've got one arm, because Aditi, you've got one arm sort of, yeah, that's it, have one arm on top. And this bottom hand may come onto your shoulder or it may just come onto your ribs. That's it, a bit of circle. So I find this really nice for my neck and my shoulders if I'm feeling quite wide across the back of the shoulders. So you want to feel that shoulders are wide, not hunching up. And then what I'd like you to try is, so normally when we fold forwards over the knee that goes out to the side. I'd like you to try and fold forwards more over your shin or your ankle. and see how that feels. It's probably not going to feel quite as comfortable. You might not be able to fold so far forwards, but it's bringing your body into more of a side bend. So just see what it's like to go forwards over the sort of, yeah, between both knees in a way. And have a couple of breaths there. You may be up on your hands, and that's absolutely fine. See what that's like. And then again, walk your hands in towards you. Slide your top leg to here into this mermaid one. And open your legs out into cobbler pose. And lean back on your hands for a moment in cobbler pose and just see how this feels. We won't stay here too long. If it feels comfortable, you could walk your hands in towards you. You could hold on to your feet. And then when you're ready, lean onto your other arm, bring the other knee on top, slide this leg back. So we've come into side 2 of pinwheel, and we're going to do a bit of circling here. That's nice, a little bit of circling in one direction, in the other direction. And then when you're ready, turning to face this knee, letting yourself fold forward. Having a few breaths there. Good. So having a few breaths in your pinwheel forward bend, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then walking your hands back in towards you. And if you can remember which arm you had on top when you were doing this movement on the other side, put the other arm on top. It doesn't matter too much, but it is more comfortable if you've got one arm completely on top. And so if possible, I think it's quite nice to have the hands on the shoulders, because that's sort of pulling the shoulders away from each other and making yourself wide through the back. Letting your head hang. A little bit of circling here. You may or may not like this. For me, it just feels nice for my neck, nice across the top of the shoulders. And then from here, you can release your arms. And you're going to fold forwards. So I said over your ankle. It could be that you feel that you're sort of folding forwards between your knees now, rather than over one leg, and see how that feels. It may be a little bit more challenging. You might not get so low down, and that's fine. Just have a couple of breaths there. So you're coming into much more of a side bend through your body. Good. Okay, and then walking your hands in towards you, leaning back onto your arms, giving your legs a bit of a lengthen out. And then we're going to come on to hands and knees. So on into hands and knees. Settling yourself down in here. And so we start to think a bit more about movements of the spine. So we'll start with a bit of cat, rounding the back, dipping the spine down, rounding the spine to the ceiling, dipping the spine to the floor. You can also add in a bit of tail wagging and just seeing how these movements feel today. Where do you feel tight? Where do you need to release? And using these cat and tail wagging movements just to help bring a little bit of freedom and ease to your body. And then eventually settle down in a fairly neutral place, because we're going to come on to working into our leg. You're going to lengthen one leg back behind you, tucking your toes under. And then start to do these movements where we're rolling. I think we might have done these last week, where we're rolling around on this back foot. We're coming onto the top of the back foot, onto the outer edges of the back foot, and seeing how that feels. And then from there, we take that leg out to the side and we do the same thing here. But there's a bit more freedom. So when we've taken our leg out to the side, there's a bit more freedom. We can roll onto the heel now. We can roll onto the ball of the foot. We can come onto the top of the toes. These are really good movements into the hip joints. And then from here, we can bring this foot round, bending the knee, walking this foot round into lunge. So ending up in lunge for a couple of breaths. So I ended up from here, my knees over my heel, but I needed to walk my back knee away a little bit. So see how it feels. And so we end up in a lunge where our foot's on the outside of our hands, but then can you walk your foot in a bit so your foot comes between your hands? Because from here, I would like you then to come into dog pose. After you've had a few more breaths in lunge, you don't get out of it that easily. So a couple more breaths in lunge. Planting your hands onto the ground. And if possible from here, tucking your back toe under, can you exhale and step your front foot back into plank pose. And sorry, not plank pose, dog pose. I'm talking nonsense here. So into dog pose, good. If it feels like a bit of a long dog, walk your feet in a bit towards your hands. That's very nice. Have a few breaths in that dog, bending one knee, bending the other, as much as you like. And from dog pose, we're going to be folding down into child pose. I've just got to grab another tissue. I'm going to get the whole box. So I'm going to have to keep going out again. Good. So that's it. Settling in child pose just for a few quiet breaths. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Feeling your elbows on the floor, maybe feeling your forehead in contact with the ground. And then from child pose, we're going to come back onto hands and knees. You look rare. You're quite happy to stay in child pose, but we'll come back onto hands and knees. And we'll take the other leg back behind us. So just like we did on the other side, rolling. You've taken the foot back behind you. You can have your toes tucked under. You can roll sort of towards the edge of each foot, the outer edge, the inner edge. You can come onto the top of your foot. Turn around this way. It's easier to see onto the top of your foot. Just, yeah, what can you do with that leg behind you? And then from there, we bring that leg out to the side. And it's really up to you how far out to the side you want to bring your leg. You want to have it in a place where you can move. So you can explore coming onto the underside of your toes, coming onto the top of your toes, rolling onto each edge of your foot. And then from here on, bringing that foot round into lunge. So if you're a bit like me, you might need to, at this point, I've brought my foot round to the outside of my hands, but I could walk my back leg away a bit more. I could come more into that lunge. So if that's the case, you can do that. Have a couple of breaths here. So the hands are on the inside of the leg at the moment. And then you can walk your hand in, your foot in between your hands so that we can plant the hands down. You may not be able to get the hands flat, and that's absolutely fine. You might need to be on your fingers. As you exhale, sink into your back foot and the hands step your foot back. Then maybe both hands can come onto the floor. Walking your feet in if it feels like too long, if your dog pose feels too long. Have a few breaths in this dog pose, see how it feels. Remember, you can, yes, bend one knee, bend both knees. From this dog pose, we're going to be coming into a forward bend and up into standing. So when you're ready, that's it. Walking your hands in towards your feet, let your head go. Good. So in your forward bend, just be in your forward bend for a few breaths. If your lower back feels a bit vulnerable, bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. Let your head go. So letting the head really hang in a forward bend is so good for the neck. If it's okay for you to let your arms hang, then that's really good for the shoulders. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale, roll into standing. Or walk your hands up the front of your thighs if your back is feeling a bit vulnerable. All the way up into standing. Oh, that's good. Helen, a layer is coming off, so we must be warming up a bit. So in standing, let's just settle a moment. So looking at the feet, seeing your feet on the floor, and then bringing your gaze forwards, giving the arms a bit of a shake. Let's give the arms a bit of a shake out. And let's give each leg a bit of a shake out. So it's always easier to balance when what we think we're doing is shaking out our legs. So we could do that a couple of times, swapping from side to side. If you do need the wall for this, that's absolutely fine. Oh, come back to a little bit more shaking with the arms. And then let's just see how it is to be in standing. Can we let the arms hang? Can we close our eyes? And just a little bit of swaying from side to side. So trying to feel ourselves in standing. So if you're swaying, you're letting your weight rock over your right leg and foot, and then your left leg and foot. Side to side. Feeling one foot on the floor and then the other. And then settling down so you're feeling your weight dropping down through both feet. Just for a moment, feel a cycle of breath move through you in standing. Feel the breath coming in, feel the breath leaving you. And then open your eyes, come on into this one. So just easy, swinging the arms, letting the feet come along, feeling the whole body in movement. So this one is really good for shoulders, arms. If we can let the arms be really sort of, I suppose, floppy. They're swinging, but they're not held. So that's why it's quite nice to slap your hands onto your body. Few more times. Try and, can the arms be really swinging? In space. That's nice. Okay, a couple more times and then let's let that go. Let that go for a moment and just see how does it feel. My nose again. How does it feel to let the arms hang? Really hang now by the sides of your body. Let the shoulders drop. And then from here, like we've been doing a lot recently, let the arms come up and come into these reaching ones where we're reaching up into one arm and then the other. And as you reach, let your weight shift into the reaching side leg. So the right side of the body and then the left side of the body gets to lengthen out. So reaching, reaching, reaching. And in a moment from reaching, we're then going to sweep down into a forward bend. In this forward bend, again, if you need to support your back by bending your knees and resting your elbows on your thighs, you can do. But if it's, yes, lovely, very nice views. If it's possible to let your arms hang, then that's really good for the shoulders. Let the arms hang. Yes, and it might be quite nice to, I see some of you are starting to do that, that weeping willow one, where you're trailing your arms around the fronts of your feet. So the arms are very sort of fluid and free and loose. Yes, that's nice. Yeah, very, yes, lovely. Really nice. Good. Fantastic. And then in your own time, let a breath come in. And as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. You end up back in standing, have a little shake out. And we're going to do a few more things focusing on the arms and shoulders. So the first thing we're going to do is these big circles into one arm, where we let the body come along. So you're letting your pelvis move, you're letting your shoulders move. So it's not just the arms moving, it's not just the arm moving in the shoulder socket, you're letting your whole body respond to these. So circling one way, circling the other. Big, easy circle. So if it's not feeling easy, then make it smaller. And then swap onto the other side. So again, Aditi, if you're doing a more difficult side now, keep it a small circle. So however you're circling your arm, you want it to feel quite loose and easy. So if that means doing a smaller circle, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. And again, remember, you're really letting your body move. You're letting your pelvis move. You're letting your shoulders move. Good. Because in a moment, we're going to do a movement where it's much more just about the shoulders moving, and it can feel a little bit harder. Let's give your legs a little shake out. And then we're going to come into this sequence where if I just show you, where we're going to be circling our arms. So we're going to be coming, if I turn around, towards this one, towards here, towards here. All of these lovely ones that we love so much. So again, don't force anything in the shoulders, because these can feel a little bit challenging. So you're going to start with your hands in front of you in prayer pose, and we'll just see where we get to, circling the arms around. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Touch your hands in prayer pose over your head, and then bring the hands to the base of your neck. And then from here, you're going to take one arm down and out in a big half circle, sliding the palm up your back. Yeah? And then the other arm does the same thing, up your back. And then carry on, circling. The first arm comes back up again. So you probably all know this one. We have done this one in real classes. We just keep circling one arm and then the other. You keep quiet through the ribs. So Sheena, now you've got the movement. You could maybe come up into standing, possibly. I don't know. It looks fine doing it on your knees, but I'm rather impressed. My knees would not be tolerating that. I get very grumbly in that position. Good. So keep circling. If you feel that you want to stay anywhere, you may well not, but when you've got one arm up, one arm down, this is our cow arms, if you want to have a few breaths there. If you wanted to have a few breaths with your hands in reverse prayer pose, you could do. You know. But to be honest, certainly for me today, I'm just thinking my shoulders feel quite stiff. I would just like to keep on circling. And I'm pretty much nearly there, having had enough of it. So when you've had enough, you're going to release your arms and give them a shake out. And then let's come back into another forward bend, because we're going to come into some balancing poses, but it would be nice just to be sort of heavy and floppy in a forward bend. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, roll forwards again, and just sort of see in the forward bend, what would your body like? If you feel that, oh, I'd like to go down into a squat, you could do. If you feel that you'd like to do those weeping willow movements again, you could do. What else could you do? Those, yeah. Or it could be that you go sort of, sometimes like a halfway towards a squat is nice, where you bend your knees and rest your chest on your thighs. That can be quite good too. Good. So have another breath or two. If you've gone down into a squat, maybe make your way back into a forward bend. Have a breath or two there. And then rolling up back into standing. So we're going to start quite easily with our balance. Say easily with our balances, simply with our balances today. And I've got some slightly different variations of things for us to try. So, but starting simply. So let's start very simply. Let's start by closing our eyes and standing and just deciding which foot you'd like to stand on first. So close your eyes, let your weight shift from side to side. Give yourself, you're suggesting to your body that you're going to be standing on one foot first. Which foot would it like to stand on first? So when you've made that decision, let's bring both hands onto the breastbone, because this, as we know, helps us feel steady. And you're going to shift your weight onto the foot you're going to stand on. And all you're going to do with the other foot, first come up onto the ball of the one you're not standing on, is to bring the other foot to stand on your standing foot. So just very quiet and simple. When I say very quiet and simple, it might be simple, but it may or may not be quiet for you today. So at any point, if you're feeling unsteady, you could bring the ball of your foot back onto the floor for a breath or two. And then again, you could come back into the balance, the foot standing on the other foot, the hands at the breastbone. Feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leaving you. If you feel very steady here, you could try taking your arms up, keeping your shoulders heavy. See how that feels. And then can you slowly bring your arms out to the sides so they come all the way down. Your arms just hang by your sides. You're still maybe balancing. Good. Come down, have a little shake out. So in a way, it doesn't matter too much what you're doing with your hands and arms. And sometimes having a little bit more going on with the arms perhaps distracts us from the foot, and maybe that's what we need. Too much focus can sometimes help us, make us feel more wobbly. So we're going to be shifting our weight onto the other foot now. So come up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. Let's have the hands. Let's start different. Let's start with the arms by the sides. And come up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on, and then come to stand that foot on the other foot. And see how it feels with your arms just hanging. If you feel quite steady, you might want to stay there. If you feel that bringing your hands to your breastbone would be helpful, you could try that movement. You might need to resettle your foot. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. From there, you could think, okay, what would it be like to take my arms up? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Good. And then once more, let the arms come down by your sides. Drop the shoulders. Very nice balancing. And then, yes, come and give your legs a little shake out. Now, let me just show, do I need to show you? We're going to, I'll just briefly show you. We're going to do this one where we reach up into one arm, we catch the top of the foot. Now, normally from here, you bring your hand onto your breastbone, but today, I'd like you to bring your hand to the back of your neck or the base of your skull. So a bit like where we were a moment ago, the hand is coming back here, either the base of the neck, base of the skull, somewhere back here, and see how that is. It's a slightly different feeling through the body. So, let's settle in standing. You're going to stand on the same foot that you started with. So whichever foot that was, it's going to be different for all of us. Start to shift your weight into that foot and reach up through the same arm. Let the other arm be heavy and floppy. So in this pose, this is where we're going to be catching our foot or our trouser leg in the raised leg. So catching your foot or your trouser leg, letting your knee drop towards the floor. Once you've managed to steady yourself below the waist, then your top hand is going to come down onto sort of the base of your neck. Could be a bit higher up on the base of your skull if you like. Just gently encouraging the neck and the shoulders to soften and relax. And see how it feels to have a couple of breaths there. So your bent knee is dropping towards the floor. Your bent elbow is reaching up towards the ceiling. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Good. And then yes, do come down and have a little shake hands. Arms and legs shaking out. So we'll do side 2 of that balance, and then we'll come into a forward bend and have a couple more balances for you. You'll be thrilled to hear. So start reaching up through the other arm. Let the arm that was raised be heavy and floppy now. Start shifting your weight into the other foot. You can come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. That foot becomes very light, and eventually you pick it up completely. You catch the top of the foot, you catch your trouser leg. And then with this top arm, we bring the hand to the base of the neck, the base of the skull, the back of the neck, wherever it feels comfortable to bring your hand. And with the hand there, can we encourage the neck and the shoulders to soften a little bit? And can we feel this opening through the front of our body, from our bent knee up to our bent elbow? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then come down and have a bit of a shake out again. And then this time you will go into a forward bend before we do a couple more balances. So settle your feet down on the floor, hip width apart and parallel. Look down at your feet and then rolling down into your forward bend. And again, remember, you've got all these options in your forward bend. If you feel particularly drawn to doing a squat, to doing that sit Elaine very nice, your weeping willow movements, or just to bending your knees a bit more. Another one which is nice is bending the knees and catching your hands around the back of your legs. That can be quite nice. You have to bend your knees quite a lot. Well, you might want to bend your knees quite a lot if you do that one. That's nice. So wherever you are, just doing something that feels good in your body. Now, I'm just thinking, yes, I'm going to show you something now. We're going to, so we haven't done that. We've done this balance, but not in Zoom before. I think I can show you at this wall, but some of you don't have a wall. So Sheila, there is an option in this where you don't use the wall. It's the same thing. Obviously, it's slightly easier with the wall, but you should have to worry about balance. We're going to come back to the same position. This time, we're thinking about bringing our gaze. So we're trying to bring our heel back away from our bottom, and we're looking up a bit, yeah? So from here, looking forwards, we start to bring the knee back and we start to look up and slide the fingers up. So Sheila, you can do this. I was trying in the room. You can do the same thing. You can start, you can have your arm up, and then as you bring your heel back, you can look up towards your hand, okay? So obviously it's a bit more of a challenge with the balance if you haven't got a wall, but it's the same thing. We're just starting to bring a little bit of a back bend into this balance. So either using a wall or not using a wall, you're going to find the balance on one foot. You're catching your trouser leg or the top of your foot in the other foot. If you're not using the wall, you're bringing your arm up in front of you. And then there's two things that are happening. One is that we're pushing our foot back. So our heel is moving away from our bottom. And at the same time, we're looking up towards our hand, towards our fingertips. And then what we're looking to feel is that as we look up, we start to feel a little bit of movement in the upper back between the shoulder blades. Yeah, that's nice, good. And it might make you feel a bit wobbly. You might have to come back down, especially if you're not using a wall. If you are using a wall, you're facing a wall, Helen. You look like you're not facing the wall. So yeah, if you're using a wall, you're facing the wall, so that you can look at your fingertips creeping up the wall. And that just makes you feel a bit more steady. Good. And you can try the same thing on the other side. So remember, it's these two things. It's the feeling that you're pulling your heel, you're pushing your foot into your hand, your heel is moving away from your bottom, and then you're looking up towards your hand. And this just opens us out more through the front of our body and maybe moves us a little bit. That's nice in the upper back. Good. Well done to those of you who are doing this in the room without a wall. Well done. Very nice. And well done to you, those of you who are using the wall as well. So, good. And come down, have a little bit of a shake out. So we've got a third, final balance.
Here, it's Jan here. Just wanted to say something.
Yes.
May I? That
Yes,
reminds me when we used to do with the
belt. Yes.
It's that, yeah, it's lovely.
So that could take you on into using the belt, exactly. But not everyone has a belt that's so good. This is the problem, you see. So we get, yeah, but it's the same sort of feeling, yeah. So another way, yeah, because I just don't know how it would work with scarves and those sort of things. Possibly that's one of the challenges. But yes, it's the same feeling. Now the final balance I'd like you to try. This one is really nice for shoulders. You can watch me for a moment. Is coming again, you're catching the top of your foot or your trouser leg, and then you're trying to catch with the other hand. So both hands are on your foot or your leg, and then again you're moving your foot back away from your bottom. Yeah. Sorry, yes, this is quite a good one for you. I know you find it quite hard, but you see, I fell over. So I've got my foot. I can try it the other way around. So I've caught my foot, I'm then taking my other arm back to catch the foot, and then I'm trying to move my heel away from my bottom. So you don't necessarily feel you're going very far, but you really widen across the front of the chest. And it can be quite a challenge just to get both hands back onto the foot or the leg, wherever you're holding. So if you're holding your trouser leg, you'll be getting both feet back onto that trouser leg, and then trying to move your foot back. And so again, what we're trying to feel here is we're very wide in the front, that's nice, wide in the front of the chest, and the shoulder blades move together in the upper back. So try that one on both sides. And yes, you're doing very well. This is the final balance, you'll probably be very, very pleased to hear. So we catch the foot or the trouser leg with one hand, and then we take the other arm back. We try to catch with that hand as well, and then we try to move our leg back a little bit behind us. So it draws our shoulder blades together in our upper back, and it gives us this sort of big stretch across the front of the chest. All well standing on one leg. Very nice. And then do you come down, give yourselves a bit of a shake out. It's a little bit of a shake out. Let's just, before, we're going to come down in a moment through a forward bend and a squat. Let's just, after all those balances, settle in standing for a moment and see how it feels. So have a look at your feet on the floor, and then bring your gaze forwards and maybe even close your eyes. Can we let the shoulders drop? Can we let the arms hang? Perhaps here, let's a couple of times bring our shoulders up to our ears and drop them down. So without bringing tension into the shoulders, bring them up and then drop them down. One last time, bring them up, drop them down. And then just a little bit of swaying from side to side. This would be the bit with your eyes closed. Feeling your weight shift over one leg and foot and over the other. I really feel that your arms are hanging from your shoulders. And then just settling in the center for a moment. And here, I'd like you to bring your hands onto your low ribs. So your thumbs can be going around towards the back and your fingers around towards the front. And just have maybe 2 or 3 cycles of breath here, feeling your ribs widening as you breathe in, narrowing as you exhale. So last cycle of breath, feeling the ribs widen, feeling the ribs narrow. And then releasing your arms, starting to look down, starting to roll down into a forward bend. Let's see how this forward bend feels. Can we really let the head go? Can we let the arms be heavy and floppy? Again, you could revisit those weeping willow movements. Elaine, I was going to say, because you're going to walk forwards into dog pose rather than going down through a squat. So I'm just realizing if you're not at the back of your mat, I'm sorry, you might want to come up and be at the back of your mat so you can go into dog pose. So weeping willow movements if you like, and then everyone apart from Elaine on into a squat. So letting your knees bend forwards, over your feet. If you want a book or a block or a cushion under your heels, you can slide something under there. Have a couple of breaths in your squat. If you're happy in squat, one thing that is quite nice is for your neck, is to interlink, and Lindsay, you might like this, interlink your hands around the base of your skull. And so again, your head falls forwards a little bit, that's it, and your elbows come down on this side. Nice for lengthening out the back of the neck. From our squat, we're going to be sitting down into cobbler pose once more. So use your hands on the floor beside you and behind you to carefully lower yourself down. And I think it might be that once you've lowered yourself down, you want to lengthen your legs out first of all, and then come back into cobbler pose. So we're going to be revisiting our pinwheel and doing something slightly different here, following on from some of the movements we've done in standing. So when you've given your legs a bit of a lengthen out, come back into the cobbler pose. And let's just see how cobbler pose feels first of all, before we go on into pinwheel. So in this cobbler pose, now we've moved a bit, how would it be to do a bit of our lovely side to side rocking? That's it, very nice. So this is where we rock onto one sit bone and then the other. This is where having a bit of padding on our bottom is very helpful. Good. And then we could also do the one where we're leaning. So we lean to one side. Take your arm up if you like. So we're not really moving now below the pelvis, below the waist rather. That's nice. So from side to side, we can find these nice side lengthening movements. Good. Okay, and then let's let one leg come on top of the other. And let's come into pinwheel. So where we were earlier. Now, this time we're going to do the one where we come into the twists in pinwheel. So you're going to lean onto the hand that's the same as this knee going out to the side. And then first of all, we just start to trail our fingers and do the sort of circle. So our fingers come from, I suppose, from this knee, we're turning towards the arm we're leaning onto. So my hand is quite close to my body. Doesn't really matter as long as you can feel that you're really leaning your weight onto that arm. Then you can start to do these movements where your arm swings round and is slapping yourself, giving yourself a slap on the back of your shoulder. I think some of you know where these are going to go to. So you give yourself your slap, you leave your arm there, and then you sink into your hand and you let your pelvis come up. And then come back down again. Let this arm release. So swing your arm round, slap yourself on your shoulder, sink into your hand, let your pelvis come up. And you can then take your arm up towards the ceiling and your gaze comes up towards the ceiling. And then undo that, bring your hand back onto your shoulder, bring your pelvis back down, bring your arm back to the starting point. So we do that a couple more times. So swing your arm round, hand onto your shoulder, sink into your hand, let your pelvis come up, and then reaching up with your fingertips, looking up towards the ceiling. And then back down again. Bottom comes onto the floor, arm back. So last time, swing your arm round, hand on the shoulder, pelvis comes up, looking up at the ceiling, reaching up through your fingertips. Really nice to feel very open through the front of the body. This time when you come down, fold forwards over that bent leg. And have a few breaths here, letting yourself settle down. So these are really nice movements following on from what we were starting to do in our standing balances of opening through the front of the body, which is what we're going to focus on a little bit more now, what we have left to us of the class. So that's it. So walking in from your forward bend, sliding your back leg on top of your front leg, opening your legs out briefly through cobbler pose and then on to side two. So we all know what we're doing on this side. Do a little bit of circling to start. And then we're going to be leaning into our arms. So we really, at this point, we let our weight shift. So from being a bit more central, we let our weight shift. And then we start, you can just start by letting this arm swing. We're turning towards, that's it, we're turning towards and beyond this knee. We can let our arms swing and slap ourselves on the back. Very nice, slapping the arm on the back. We were raring to go with this one, so you can slap yourself on the back of your shoulder, you can sink into your hands, let your pelvis come up. And then you can, next time, slap yourself on the back, let the pelvis come up, take your arm up towards the ceiling, look up, come back down, all the way down, that's it. We'll do that maybe 3 more times. So hand on the back of the shoulder, let the pelvis come up, reach the arm up towards the ceiling, coming back down. So swinging the arm looks very beautiful, everyone, swinging the arm, sinking into the other arm, pelvis comes up, we look up. Reversing the movement. So you're completely reversing the movement each time, lovely. Make this the last one. And then coming down, folding down over that leg that's going out to the side. Having a few breaths there. See if you can let your shoulders and neck feel nice and soft and relaxed. And from here, when you've had another breath or two, you might like to come walk your hands in, lean back on your arms and give your legs a bit of a length. And we're going to come into dog pose, and then we're going to look at some of the puppy poses. So starting to just really focus in on the shoulders and the upper back a little bit more. But I thought it'd be nice to lengthen your legs out in dog pose first. And we'll do dog pose again after the puppy poses. And it's interesting to see how it feels in the upper back. So from hands and knees, big handprints on the floor, tuck your toes under, exhale, rock your hips back and then up. And come into dog pose. And see how it feels. You might want to bend your knees a lot or a little, or one at a time. Good. That's it, yes. Just, yeah, see how dog pose feels. Particularly maybe notice, how does dog pose feel in your upper back between your shoulder blades? Because that's the place we're going to be working on a bit with puppy pose. And again, in puppy pose, Aditi, just make sure that you're not, you know, doing anything that is too much for your shoulder. So you can come back down from your dog onto hands and knees. I'll just remind you of the first puppy pose. In between each puppy pose, we're going to round up in cat. So the first one is where our forearms are on the ground. So our forearms are like this. And it's this delightful one where we have our bottom sticking up in the air. And we're dipping our chest down to the ground. So it really, yes, it does really sort of come into the upper back and the shoulders. Aditi, do you think that's be all right for your shoulder, lovely? Just see how you get on. So first puppy pose, forearms there. Make sure your bottom is up in the air. Sarah, I wonder whether your knees could walk back a little bit more. Might be the angle I'm in. Yes, yes, that's it. So we're thinking about the chest dipping down towards the ground. Very nice. Good. Good. Have a few breaths there. It can be quite intense. When you've had enough time there, you come onto hands and knees, back onto your hands again, and round your back to the ceiling in cat pose. So let your head hang. You're moving your upper back in the opposite direction. So puppy pose number 2, and Aditi, this one might suit you better, I'm not sure, is where you have your elbow, you catch your elbows like this. So the same organisation of bottom sticking up in the air, catching your elbows. My forehead comes onto the ground in between my arms. It might be that your forehead touches your arm. Yes. Dipping the chest down to the floor, bottom sticking up in the air. Yeah, Aditi, that looks better. That looks like it works a bit better for you there. Nigel, that one looks maybe not so effective. I don't know whether, yeah, it doesn't work so well for you, whether your knees need to walk back a little bit more, whether your chest can dip down. It looked like more was happening in the last one. Yes, again, when you're ready, come back, round your back to the ceiling in cat pose. Really let your head hang. Feel really wide across the upper back. Rounding your back, letting your head hang. And then the final puppy pose, I think I can show you side on. This is the most intense. So Aditi, you might want to just repeat the one we did. It's this one. So we've got our elbows on the floor, the hands in prayer pose. Oh, yes, I'm getting some nice clumps in my upper back. I was thinking maybe I didn't have my knees as far back as I needed to, but it felt quite helpful. So yeah, see how that one feels. But again, if it feels, yes, actually, Aditi, that one looks really nice for you there. Good, yes, that looks lovely. Very nice. Good, have a couple of breaths there. And again, before it gets too much, you can round your back in cat pose. And then you're going to do one more dog pose. So you can round your back in cat pose. And then tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back over your heels. See how dog pose feels after the puppy poses. And whether you can feel an echo of puppy pose in your upper back. So you're not trying to do the same movement, but is there, yeah, lovely. Very nice dog poses, everyone. But yes, bending the knees as much as you like. Big exhalations, letting the head go. From this dog pose, you're going to fold down into child pose. Have a few quiet breaths. Sorry, I was just checking my timing, which bizarre, staggeringly seems to be very accurate. We're going to do one more little bit of movement, and then we're going to come and do a bit of sitting. So the last thing I like you to do here is we're going to come into some face up dog. You must have been wondering where it is today. So from your child pose, you could plant your hands on the floor, and then you come up into this longer hands and knees position. So we've done quite a lot of movements that will help us with face up dog. And I'd like you to just do a little bit of easing. So from hands and knees, in the long hands and knees position, how does it feel to start to rock your weight forwards, rocking your shoulders forwards over your wrists and bringing your pelvis forwards? Now, at this point, you might think, yeah, that's all feeling quite good. I want to go on into face up dog. But you might be thinking my lower back needs to lengthen out more. If that's the case, you can then do a bit of those cat movements. So tucking your toes under, rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels, and traveling forwards into face up dog with your back rounded. So if that would be nice for your lower back, that's an option. You might want to repeat that again. You come into face up dog, you let a breath come in, and then rocking back, tucking your toes under, rounding your back to the ceiling, hips over your heels, let a breath come in, and then traveling forwards with your back rounded. So watching your pelvis come forwards. Opening up into face up dog. You could repeat that once more if you liked. So rocking back, tucking the toes under, letting a breath come in, and then traveling forwards into your face up dog. And then just from here, I'll leave it up to you. You might want to fold into child pose, or if your hands can take it, you could go up into one last dog pose and then child pose. Just, yeah. Whatever would feel nice at this point. Good. Lovely. Beautiful. Yes, exactly, Sheila. The side bending into face up dog is a very good option. Yeah, so have a few breaths in child pose, and then we're going to be coming and doing a little bit of quiet sitting and breathing before, maybe just for about 5 minutes before we lie down. So while you're having another couple of breaths in child pose, you could be thinking about how you're going to sit to be comfortable for a little bit of quiet breathing. So you might want to have your back against the wall or a sofa. Sit on a cushion if you need to put any. Oh, the sun's come out. That's rather nice. Yes, so I was going to say if you need to put any warmer things on. I got distracted by the sun. It's going to make us think, you know, Sheena, you look like you're very nice, sort of lots of nice sunlight there. So settling down. Yeah, so you can have crossed legs, you can have long legs if you've got to the back to the wall, you can sit in kneeling if you wish. If I just, yeah, we're going to come back to this breathing we did in standing. And then we're going to come to this mudra, hakini mudra. We're going to do it where we move our hands with our breath. And then we'll finish just keeping it still for a few breaths. Okay. So, but just start maybe with your hands on your thighs. And you could do a little bit of swaying or circling, settling. So, yes, we could think about dropping the shoulders, couldn't we? That's been a little bit of a focus. So you could, a few times, maybe 3 times, let your breath come in, let your shoulders come up, and then drop them down. So again, breathing in, let the shoulders come up, drop them down. Final time, breathing in, the shoulders come up, drop them down. And just also trying to feel heavy from the waist down. So for a moment, you could take your hands onto the bony rim of your pelvis and just try to think, yes, this is where I'm trying to feel heavy from heavier down, hands on the pelvis. Maybe let a cycle of breath come in or out with your hands just on the pelvis. And then from there, slide your hands up onto your low ribs. So you've got your fingers coming round towards the front ribs, your thumbs around towards the back of your body. It's better to let your elbows come slightly forwards rather than back. Otherwise, if they come back, your ribs might poke out a bit. And then just have a few breaths here. How does it feel to focus on the movement of your breath in these low ribs? Feeling the ribs widening as the breath comes in. Feeling the ribs narrowing as the breath leaves you. Let's have 2 more cycles of breath here. Feeling that expansion of the inhalation, the emptying out of the out breath. And then release your hands for a moment. Let them come to rest on your thighs so you can let the arms and the hands and the shoulders relax. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then we're bringing the hands in front of us. We're touching the pads of the fingers and the thumbs in hakini mudra. And in this one, as we exhale, we're going to bring the hands together. And as you breathe in, you're going to take the hands away from each other. So it's just those pads of the fingers stay touching. And really see if you can dome the hands as you breathe in. And there's this sort of mirroring of the hands mirroring your rib cage, widening. So as you exhale, the palms coming together. As you breathe in, creating this big dome. That's it, very beautiful. Between your hands. Exhaling. Breathing in. Exhaling. Keeping the shoulders as heavy and relaxed as possible. Good. Have 1 more cycle of breath when you move your hands in hakini mudra. And then you're going to keep them in that domed position of the inhalation. And just, can you soften and settle here? So if we close the eyes, we can feel all those points of contact between the fingers and the thumbs. Can we let the shoulders soften and relax? Can we feel the centers of our palms are soft? And just here with the hands quiet now, can we let the breath come in and let the breath leave us? Again, maybe for 2 more cycles of breath. Good, and then once more let the hands come back down onto the thighs, palms down this time. Feel yourself in sitting for a moment, your head balancing on the top of your spine, your pelvis and legs heavy. And then you're going to fold forwards and bring your hands onto the ground in front of you. If you like to Go further and touch the forehead on the ground. You may need to bring your bottom up for that. And then we're going to lie down. You'll be pleased to hear. Let's see how to do. So we're going to do a few little movements on our backs, but settle yourselves down. Make sure you're going to be warm enough. Just settle down onto your backs. And what was I going to say first? Yes, let's when you arrive on your back, lie with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And come to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So we usually do this right at the beginning of class. We're adding it in now. That's nice. Let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. Good. And then settle your legs in the center. You could lengthen your legs out if you'd like now. We're going to just do that one where we bring our arms up into prayer pose. We make a triangle with our arms. So that one, it's rather nice for the upper back. So you made a triangle with your arms, your hands are stuck together, your elbows are straight, and you're rocking side to side across your upper back. So let your head and your arms rock to the right and then to the left. If your knees are bent, don't let your knees rock at this point. Good. That's it. So just rocking side to side across the upper back. Lovely. A couple more times. And then you can let your arms go. Let the arms come to rest on the floor. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So one last time, you're going to let your knees rock to the right and to the left and see how it feels. Take your feet a little bit wider. So pause in the middle and take your feet as wide as the mat. As long as you're lying lying the normal way on your mat. And now let your knees carry on tilting from side to side with your feet wide and see how that feels. Keep your shoulders and arms just sort of settled and quiet on the floor. And then if you like, it might be quite nice to let your knees come all the way down to one side and roll your head in the opposite direction. You could roll your head from side to side a little bit and then let it end up in the opposite direction to the knees. Good. And do the same thing going the other way. So letting your knees go all the way down to the other side. If the knees are hovering at all, then you can always slide a cushion underneath one of them. And you can let your head roll a little bit from side to side and then settle down in the opposite direction to the knees. Yes, that's a good idea, Sheila. Good. The benefit of being at home in your lounge or your bedroom, there might be pillows and cushions around. Yes, you can come back. If you've done that on both sides, you can come back to the center. You might like to fold your knees into your chest for a moment. Might like to take your legs up to the ceiling for a moment to give them a shake out. So these are all possibilities at this point in proceedings. Yes, and your arms, Elaine, very nice. I can see your hands and your feet, it's lovely. It's quite nice circling to the ankles if you take your feet up as well. And just before we settle on our backs quietly, I would like us to roll onto our bellies just for a couple of easy things and a couple of breaths. So from your back, you can roll onto your belly and just settle on your belly. So that's nice. Good. Yeah, so like a lot of you are doing, I like to have one hand on top of the other and perhaps the side of the head or the forehead resting on the hands and giving the pelvis a bit of a wiggle. That's always number one thing to do. Wiggle the pelvis. Can we settle down? Maybe just see, can you where do you feel your breath? And the other thing you can do is to bend your knees, take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling and tilt your feet from side to side. Now, I have a feeling that the internet connection's a bit iffy, so at some point hopefully I'll see some feet going towards the ceiling and then I'll know that I've still got you all. So on your back, bending your knee, on your belly, bending your knees, bringing the soles of your feet to the ceiling, tilting your legs from side to side. And then just letting your legs come back down onto the floor, having a few more breaths on your belly. And from your belly, you're going to be rolling over onto your backs. So I'm hoping, I can't see anyone moving, I'm hoping I've still got you. Maybe you can hear me, even if I can't see you moving. So from your bellies, rolling onto your backs. And settling on your backs, either with your knees bent or with your legs long. And lying on your backs, you're going to come to some of the movements we did right at the beginning of class. So the first thing, just letting your head roll to the right and to the left. Feeling the weight of your head on the floor. Noticing how your neck feels and how your shoulders feel. And then, like we did at the beginning of class, bringing your hands up to massage the back of your neck and the base of your skull a little bit. See how those areas feel. You can be pressing with your fingers, you can be circling with your fingers. Into the shoulders at the base of the neck. Into the back of the neck, either side of the spine. And up, yes, around the base of the skull. Down into the shoulders. And then letting your arms come to rest by your sides or on your belly. And once again, letting your head roll to the right and to the left. And then settling the head down, finding a comfortable place to settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And just allowing yourself to settle. Just got 2 or 3 minutes of lying quietly. Feeling the body supported by the ground. Feeling the movement of the breath in your body. You could feel the points of the body that are in contact with the ground. The back of the head, the back of the shoulders, back of the elbows, maybe the hands if they're resting on the floor. And then the back of the rib cage, some of the points of the vertebrae, and the back of the pelvis. And then depending how you have your legs organized, either the soles of your feet on the floor or feeling the back of your heels on the floor. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So I'm going to ring the bowl now and listen 3 times and just lie quietly and listen to the sound and to the silence at the end of the sound. So thank you, everyone. I hope you're still there because my screen has gone rather blank.